What's up, guys? Welcome back to Viewer Castles. Today we're going to start off with TeDe. Castle level is a 32. I'll jump into it. Alright. So there's, this is post-patch, and there's a couple different things. You notice that I actually had that max EXP thing pop up, even though I went through and did a targeted attack on him. I'll have gold drops, and I'll actually be able to loot his castle. They changed how targeted attacks work. I'm not 100% sure how it works. You know, like how it is now, exactly. But I think how it works, basically, is if you target attack someone who isn't shielded, you're able to loot them. But if they're shielded, you won't get any drops whatsoever. I believe that's how they have it set up. Which I think is pretty cool. It kind of eliminates derp farms, which was the idea behind targeted attacks to begin with. And I don't know if they actually mentioned this in the dev chat. I'd have to go back and listen to it a little bit, you know, a little bit more clearly. I didn't think it was coming in this patch either way. So this is pretty cool. Little change that they made. Alright. So we have an Explodifier. The thing is, I don't really even like comboing Explodifiers with other units because the Explodifier will stay so far back. Although, actually, did they nerf Explodifiers? I haven't attacked all that much in this patch, but it looks to me like they may have nerfed Explodifiers. I'll have to keep a little bit closer of an eye on this as I'm going through the castle. And obviously, this is being recorded one day after the patch. So this is kind of one of my first attacks since the patch hit. So you know, at the point that this might get released, we may already know the answer to this, or we should. I'm gonna test it as soon as I get done with this video. So. But what I'm thinking happens is that they have to actually come within sight range to be able to start shooting, which if that's the case, that all level 32 castles got a big nerf, because that means if they did it for Explodifiers, they probably did it for Mr. Boom Boom. So that could be a pretty big change if that's the case. So let's see. Mr. Boom Booms will probably still be worth it, but Explodifiers would be absolutely worthless in my opinion, because their range is kind of what they have, right? Sure, they summon units and they're okay against people who are underleveled, but people of the same level who have decent gear, it's not really a big deal. Like, as you can see, Explodifiers, there's 2 of them here. I'm not going to take any damage and they die pretty quickly. Alright, some spiders. This might hurt. I got lucky there that I crit on my basic attack. Spiders are pretty easy to deal with bear traps, but having 2 of them does make it a little bit more difficult, I have to say. The thing is, one hitting you isn't the biggest deal in the world. Usually the big problem is when they hit you and something combos with that, like a Zeke or Smelly Archers or something like that. Alright, so obviously you're going for some sort of a... Yeah, there's the Snotter, okay. Some sort of a flank is what I was going to say. If I was playing smart, I should have volleyed this before I hit the Snotter, but that's fine. It's a cool little flank that you have there, though. Although I wish there was something in on this side a little bit closer in, so that, it, like, let's say I miss the Snotter completely and I don't notice it, and I just keep going and then I get like a Jimbo here, and that flanking army behind me, I would probably die 100%. So now we have a couple bomblets here. Let's see. So see, this looks like they're out of range now. I'm wondering if they just have to be within line of sight, and since this corridor is long, they started shooting? Or maybe that first one that I saw was just bugged. I don't know. I still have to pay a little bit closer attention. But Explodifiers here are pretty good. You know, it's kind of a common double pull room, so... Explodifiers are good with any double pull, unless, of course, they are nerfed, in which case they may be kind of useless in some rooms. This room, it seems like they'd still be okay in, though, because it's longer. So they have more room to actually attack the hero. Alright, just kill that. might have to use another potion here. I think I will. Okay. It's a dead end. Alright, so here's some derps that are going to be pulling through the room. What do we have? So there's the Mr. Moomum. As you notice, he's walking and he's not actually firing anything out until he sees me. So you can see that that was the case. What I said before. It looks like he might fire a couple out at this first sight of the hero, though. Like he fires like 2 or 3 at once when he sees them, which is kind of weird. I don't understand that at all. But he definitely got changed around a little bit. There's something happened with Mr. Moomums and Explodifiers. And I'm not sure if I'm going to like it, but at the same time, they're kind of boring units. I just wish we could see some buffs as well on units. Like, I don't know if they buffed things because they don't really put it in the patch notes anymore. I know that they did some balancing changes, but the patch notes weren't specific on what exactly they did. Which is kind of annoying. I'm hoping it wasn't all creature nerfs, because I've seen a couple of them so far. I believe the Cyclops as well, his charge is for less amount of time than it used to be. At level 28 at least. I'm not sure about the other levels, but at level 28, it seems like his charge is about a half as long as it used to be, maybe, you know, maybe 2/3 or so. So again, the Mr. Boom Boom, he's not firing out bomblets, so it's taking him a lot less time to walk around the area, and if I don't make line of sight with him, he should walk all the way up towards me without me even seeing a bomblet. Which is huge. It's a huge change. But then, as soon as he gets released, you can see 2 bomblets on the screen. It looks like he like pops one out just to the left of him and pops one out under him as well. Which is kind of like a little bit of a buff to, you know, soften up the fact that that's a huge change to him. Like, the rooms that you're going to be able to use Mr. Boom Booms and Explodifiers in have probably shrunk in size quite a bit. Those long corridor rooms that we used to use with the, you know, kind of the new rooms that were brought about in the last patch, the long, like, angular rooms won't work as well because you can hide around one of these corners and you just wait for him to get close to you. And it's a lot easier to engage him, so... Alright, Jimbo is fine. Obviously it's a standard group. Well, this could be dangerous. I sort of jumped into that without really seeing it until I was already in the air. Yeah, so even there you could see that there was 3 bomblets thrown out, as opposed to 1 right away from 1 Explodifier. Because as soon as he sees you, it looks like he throws out, you know, 2, and then he makes another one right after that. So, I don't know. It's definitely a nerf, I would say. Did they nerf the times as well? Because I don't know if I've been going really slow, because generally when I'm talking, I go slower than normal anyway. And I only have 1 star right now. So I'm wondering if, you know, if they nerfed the times on the castles again to make it a little bit better. I won't be able to tell until maybe the next castle if it's a level 30 or 32. Alright. Either way, it's a pretty good castle. I only got 1 star. It almost timed me out. We might have to take a look at all of our castles, though, with Explodifiers and Mr. Boom Booms, because of this change. And see, I did target attack him, and I was able to loot him, so that's also a reasonably big change. You're able to do targeted attacks, but not necessarily derp farm, because if they're shielded, I believe you get 0 loot, 0 item drops, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, we'll go into number 2 in just a second. Alright, for number 2 we have Caiora, Caiora, I don't know. Castle level's 22. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly and pretty easily, but I'll try to still give you guys, you know, some advice on your castles that are a little bit lower level compared to me. Eventually I do want to take my knight up to like level 24, so I can do some of these mid-range castles with my knight, because anything under that, like 20 and below, it's almost pretty difficult to make castles regardless, because you just don't have access to all that much. So let's see. Alright, so what do we have behind it? It looks like Cyclops kind of leads the charge a little bit too much, I would say. You want to delay him a little bit or speed up your archers just slightly. Because if someone like pulls back, they're going to come all the way out of the room. They'll probably kill off the Cyclops before the archers really get off one shot. And I would even think about probably moving that Snotter that I aggroed. Like you noticed here, when I was coming into this room, the Snotter was out in the open, so I was able to just auto-attack him and pull everything around this corner. Whereas if you had the Snotter around the corner right here, I wouldn't really be able to attack him without using a volley, which is a lot of mana and stuff. And if I just entered the room, I would be a lot closer to your archers, a lot closer to the Cyclops, so you'd have more chance of actually hitting me and doing damage. So you have a Bad Dog and an Enrager Puppeteer. I feel like that's a little bit too much support for a 20-point group. That's something you might want to use in like a boss room or something, but in this specific circumstance, the only thing you're really getting any benefit out of increasing attack speed would be this one Cyclops, which it's 6 points to increase the attack speed of one Cyclops. Like, it's really not that great. Alright, so let's see what was happening here. So basically, I pulled this group, which was 4 archers that came around, and then you had another group that was protecting basically this this corner abuse, because a lot of people will stand here, especially knights will stand right around this corner and take care of all of the archers. But if you do this, you have, you know, a secondary group that you pull no matter what if you want to abuse that corner. Personally, I don't really think Stairmasters on this specialization are going to work unless you have something to force them to work, because their projectiles are just so slow, it's so easy for them to be dodgeable. There's a couple situations where they're decent against knights. If you reduce like the knight's movement speed or something, like with a jelly wall, and put the Stairmasters behind them, it's reasonably good. But other than that, like especially for archers and for knights, or for archers and for mages, those projectiles are just too slow to ever hit unless you use Hungerbots are kind of useless at this point. It's only really a springboard trap with obviously a Hungerbot in front of it. If you could get one of those to work and make someone get hit by a springboard trap, it would still kill them. But that's really the only circumstance that I would ever die to a Stairmaster on that specialization. To be honest, I would just wait until you're level 28 and then start using them on the specialization that like displacement field, because that actually starts doing reasonable damage. Until then, I would stick to like Zeeks and Smelly Archers and some Jimbos maybe, Pete Poundmore maybe, things like that for your DPS, rather than Stairmasters. I think they need to do a little bit of work on Stairmasters in that specialization specifically, because I can't see many situations with them working. Maybe at the lower levels, because people don't know what they are yet, so they'll just kind of charge headlong into them. But as soon as you learn how much damage they actually deal and you have to be aware of those projectiles, I don't really see it working. So I think there's definitely going to have to be some changes that need to be made. Alright, so I like this quite a bit. This is probably the part of your castle where I like the most, because there's a really nice situation that can happen here where I guess you have it on slow, which is okay. I would almost prefer it more so if you had Pinstrike on at this point. Just because if you get bashed down, there's a lot more likelihood that you don't dodge out of the way. Or if I get slowed, what I can do is I can still roll out of the way of the Smelly Archers. But if I get bashed down and I'm like laying on the ground, there's nothing I can do to dodge the Smelly Archers' attack. So I would consider trying that instead. But I mean, overall, it's not a bad castle. I think just like look at your Stairmasters. That's probably one area where you're not really getting all that much damage out of what you're doing with them. Like, watch some replays that you have if you're getting attacked at all. I know some people have been complaining that they're not getting attacked, but watch some replays and see if those Stairmasters are actually doing anything for you. And if they're not, switch them out for something else. So we'll jump into number 3 in just a second. Alright, next up we have Bimbus, castle levels of 22. Alright, so this is pretty good. What you did notice there is that your Cyclops, like, I can see what you're going for, because I think what you're trying to do is make it so this Cyclops can't get one shot by having him on the Defendatron. What happens is, obviously I have to attack the Defendatron instead, or volley the entire group. If I volley the entire group, these two archers will probably die, and then I'll have to deal with just a Cyclops and a Defendatron, which isn't a big deal. So what I would first do is spread your archers out. Put one up in this corner, put one over in this corner, and then I'm more apt to just go after the Defendatron and Cyclops first. The Cyclops charges, he gets out of range of the Defendatron, as you noticed right there, and they will de-link from each other. But that really doesn't matter, because what you're just going for is me getting hit by the Cyclops once and having these archer shots hit. So I mean, that's a fine idea. I don't know how often or how well it will work, because you can kind of see it coming. Alright, I don't mind the Zeke. The Smelly Warriors, I get the idea behind them. You want to just kind of tank for your archer. Generally, it doesn't normally work that way, though. If you see an archer in the background, you're going to try to dodge the projectiles, and you can almost ignore the Smelly Warriors completely because their DPS isn't really that high. So far, I think that just the couple groups that I've seen, your groups are a little bit out in the open. Like, this one's better because it's behind a wall, and what you noticed happened there, after I'll kill it first so I don't take needless damage. Alright, so what you noticed is, because it was behind a wall, I didn't really see it coming, right? I was coming up here, and then I just barely saw the Puppeteer and like a Defendatron, and I kind of turned into here, and these two Cyclopses pushed me into the acid. And, I mean, it's not really a high DPS setup, but that's kind of the thing that you want to do, is hide your groups the best you can, so that an unexpected attacker can get hit and take more damage. If you have things out in the open, it's a lot easier to plan your attack, you know, as a attacker. Like here, I'm assuming there's one more Stairmaster in the back somewhere, but I can kind of, yeah, there it is right there actually. So this is kind of the group setup. What I can do is kind of plan my attack. I can say, okay, if I drop a volley right here, it's going to probably hit and kill this one, and this one's going to walk through it and die as well. Then I'll only have to deal with two of them. So I can do that, roll out of the way so I'm out of range so they don't teleport, and then kind of step back up, and you can see that's exactly what happened. And then I only have to deal with two. You know, this one was better as well because the jelly wall makes me want to vault through it. I can't really see anything that's up in this room, so it kind of surprises the attacker. But this one, you know, again, I can kind of plan my attack. I see two Cyclopses. I can say, okay, if I, you know, headshot this guy, immediately drop bear traps, and roll backwards, these Cyclopses will get stuck in the bear traps, and the Defendatron will most likely be dead. And as you can see, that's exactly what happens, right? So planning someone's, like, making it so someone can't plan their attack like that makes things a lot more difficult for the attacker. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at. I haven't really talked about the groups themselves. I think, like, a lot of these groups specifically have kind of low DPS. Like, charging Cyclopses aren't the highest damage dealers in the game, and then you have some support with it. So you don't really... The only thing you can really expect to happen here is possibly have the Cyclops push you on top of the Spike Trap, which I feel like maybe the Spike Trap could be over a couple hexes to make that happen more often, but either way, I don't think it's really the biggest deal in the world. I'm also not sure that this group is actually necessary to kill. I think you might be able to skip it if you just kind of round the corner into here. Now again, this Scorpio, the same kind of principle applies. I'm going to be able to headshot this, and if I wasn't as high a level, I wouldn't have killed it outright, but I would have chunked it down to at least like half health. So that's, you know, not ideal for you. You could have it just a couple hexes over this way and make it so I can't headshot it, and then I can't chunk it down that easily. I get what you're trying to do with it. You want to push him back onto the Spike Trap, but that can actually still happen if you have him just over a little bit. If you have him like right here, even if I like vault or something right to this point, that's going to hit me, and I'm just going to roll back onto like this area here. So it still works. Alright, so we have a Zeke back here, and two Smelly Warriors. Again, the kind of same principle applies. I'm not really surprised by this. That's a lot of the reason also why people pull things through the walls. Your aggro groups can kind of go through the walls, and you can pull it around like that. I haven't seen you do it yet, so I'm going to do a quick little kind of describing what I would be talking about. So let's say this Zeke, and we remove one of these smelly warriors, and we put in a bone puppeteer, so we have one extra point to work with. What we can do is we can have one of the smelly warriors up next to this wall over here, and then we can have the Snotter, which would be a 1-point unit, way over here, which, I mean, this specific circumstance wouldn't work, but you could put it over here, and this group, if you aggroed this Snotter, the group would walk around and engage you over into this room. And then you can put a group in between it, so you can't really surprise, you know, the creatures at all. I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully it did. With this new like chat system, I've actually had a lot of people kind of asking me about those specific things with, you know, pulling things through wall. There's a lot of new players on, it seems like, so I've been trying to at least explain it a little bit and kind of let people know about my YouTube channel, so hopefully some new viewers can kind of understand this sort of thing. This one as well, one of these groups is skippable, if not both. Like, I'm wondering if I just kind of go right through the middle, I can actually skip both of these archer groups. I don't have to kill these in order to get to your treasure room. So that's a pretty big deal, right? You want all of your groups to be non-skippable. You want to force the attacker through the aggro zone, that white circle around your groups. So the only way to do that with this specific thing is you'd have to put one of them in the center and remove one of them and put it somewhere else in your castle. Because as it is right now, I have everything killed. Basically, the getting to the end of the castle without dying and killing the boss room is the only requirement for looting a castle. There has to be 0 aggroed mobs, and you have to have the boss room killed and not have died. And then, you know, you can loot the chests. And obviously not be timed out by the timer over here. So, yeah, is this number 3? I think it is. So we will end the video here. I'm gonna, you know, jump into another one to record it right after this, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, as always, subscribe if you enjoy what I do, and if you want to be a part of Eurocast, you can email me at frenzycastruns@hotmail.com. That's in the description, as well as a spreadsheet that kind of will show you when your castle will get done as soon as I update the spreadsheet. Obviously, it's not instantaneous, but I do have to update it. But it'll kind of let you know when your castle will be recorded, when it's being edited, and when it's set for release. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.